As you would expect, the two parties in the case, the United States and Mr. Rahimi, see things very differently. Solicitor General Elizabeth Prelogar argued on behalf of the United States. Guns and domestic abuse are a deadly combination, and this court has said all too often the only difference between a battered woman and a dead woman is the presence of a gun. Armed abusers also pose grave danger to police officers responding to domestic violence calls and to the public at large, as Zakay Rahimi's own conduct shows. To address that acute threat, Congress and 48 states and territories temporarily disarm individuals subject to domestic violence protective orders. Congress designed Section 922G8 to target the most dangerous domestic abusers. It applies only if, after notice and a hearing, a court makes an express finding that the person poses a credible threat to an intimate partner's physical safety or imposes a specific prohibition on the use of physical force, and the disarmament lasts only as long as the order remains in effect. Guns and domestic abuse are a deadly combination. So are knives, clubs, motor vehicles, though none of them are prohibited for those under a restraining order. It seems in her haste to condemn the possession of firearms, Ms. Prelogar has conveniently ignored all of the other weapons frequently used to harm not only the victims of domestic abuse, but police officers and the public at large. Mr. Wright, the public defender representing Mr. Rahimi, was not nearly as articulate in the opening of his argument. My friend described several times the government's principle that, in this case, they are not relying on any analogs that were directed at the people who are not part of the people, outside of the community, the national or political community entirely. Mr. Wright went on to respond to some questions that had been raised by the bench during his opponent's oral arguments. He closed his opening statement with, "When Congress enacted Section 922G8 in 1994, it acted without the benefit of Heller, McDonald, and Bruen. So we shouldn't be surprised if they missed the mark. They made a one-sided proceeding that is short a complete proxy for a total denial of a fundamental and individual constitutional right." In short, Mr. Wright said Congress got it wrong because they did not have the benefit of the court's opinions in previous Second Amendment cases. Overall, I think the government made a better case. Mr. Wright's primary assertion seems to be based on Bruen's text and history standard, where the court seeks to see if the law in question has any basis in the text or history of the nation around the time of the ratification of the Bill of Rights or the 14th Amendment.